where I am looking out at frost on the rooftops. Thanks all for being here. I imagine we may be joined by a few more folks. I am going to share my screen and start at the top. We have found that if we just share the screen instead of going full screen, then that way I can sort of feel a little bit more like I'm participating with you all. So can everyone see this well enough? I think so. All right.
Yes, that's good, Pam.
Our intention, as always, is to engage in a collaborative exploration of the economic principles and the tools necessary for regenerative humanity. The subject of regenerative economics is huge, but by collaborating together, we may find new ways to help save our planet and our species. Last time we were together, Tanuja led us into a really great, stimulating discussion, starting with the question of what are units of stored value, money, Bitcoin, property, stocks, how do those units work, and what causes the negative side effects? And we really spent time considering money as a neutral storehouse, and then what causes things to go astray. And this morning, we're going to do a little bit, as I was talking about, some reiteration, some iteration, and we are going to begin with a quote. It's Charles Eisenstein. You and I, we are here to contribute to the aliveness of the cosmos. Our lives are the gifts we offer. Creating life and beauty and love is our work. Be devoted. I really love that quote. It sits by my desk and it is a guiding light for me. And it comes from a mini documentary called "And the Music Played the Band." And Tanuja is putting that link in to the chat for you. It's 37 minutes. It's incredibly moving, and I really recommend it. So with this as our foundation, we'll continue our conversation. We continue to think about a systems-based, nature-aligned economy, also understood as humans thriving within the ways and flow of nature. And this is the mission of Inquiring Systems, which is the nonprofit that I have the honor of guiding and leading. And we believe there will come a time when humans are once again aligned with the ways of nature. And in service to our conversation, we're once again going to talk about what is a human economy, really. And this definition is ongoing and changing all the time, but at its heart, the human economy is an organizational tool in service to human thriving that allows for the creation and movement of value. It is the way that a community manages and supplies their collective needs, serves their collective needs. And it supports the survival and thriving of the community, and ultimately oikos, which we have gone over several times in this course, which is the original meaning and heart of economy, and it's the Earth's household. So what does a human economy look like through the complex systems lens? And we have come up with three. There's more than this, but these are the three we're focusing on right now. Their economies are autopoietic, self-organizing networks, providing for nonlinear evolution. So understanding autopoietic economies, an economy in which the production patterning evolves within a self-generating network of processes within its natural boundaries. And just for the sake of conversation, I put one potential natural boundary, which would be watershed. For a long time, it seemed to me watersheds don't have the recognition for the roles they play really in the natural way of things. Self-organizing networks, so that each part of the economy responds in a way that is based on its individual context, which is a result of its own unique set of environmental influences according to its own nature and nonlinear patterns of organization. And so to this concept, I ask a question: how influenced is human society today by false narratives? And this is, versus 150 years ago. And I think back to 150 years ago, really the rare false narrative was the snake oil salesman that came through town and tried to BS you into buying something. Versus today, when we are bombarded moment by moment with just hundreds of false narratives, as many as we're up for exposing ourselves to. And it just moves us further and further away from being able to hear and feel the interconnection with the natural systems that could and did 150 years ago influence the majority of our decision making. So I feel like that is such an important thing to keep in mind as we think about creating a healthier economy for ourselves. And then the third concept is nonlinear emergent properties. Emergent properties, which was the first concept we explored back in May of this year. And we've learned that emergent properties are always arising in nature, which then create further nonlinear self-reorganizations with new patternings. And I would ask us to consider what is emergent from the neoliberal capitalist economy. What emerges from that? I had the word "a lot" in there. It was so corny. I changed it to just a follow-up. How are we evolving? How are we evolving? Instead of just kicking back and letting evolution through all of those false narratives just keep on reforming us, I'm a huge believer in taking personal responsibility in our own lives and taking charge of how we are responding to what is coming at us. So some organizing thoughts. And these have come together over the course of our months of coming together. And I'm glad that Catherine has joined us because I feel like she's been quite a big influence in these organizing thoughts. Everything works better when it's naturally aligned with its true flow. The pain is in the resistance. When we honor and harmonize with nature-based systems in our interconnected true flow, that is when regeneration occurs. And Dave Witzel, who's trying to get a list going of the definition of regeneration, I really want this to be a part of that conversation. It is when we honor and harmonize with nature-based systems in our interconnected true flow that regeneration naturally occurs. I really think there's something in that. And finally, the last two, all prior paradigm shifts had the luxury to happen slowly over centuries. In fact, we still have a flat earth society today. And Tanuja is starting a pizza society. She joked with me yesterday. But we don't have that kind of time, given the speed that we are destroying our ecosystem and our biosphere. We just simply don't have the luxury of time. So for today, our discussion prompt, and we really want to encourage everyone who would like to please pipe in and share your thoughts. We know we cannot design a successful new global economic system here on Tuesday mornings, but we can move this important conversation forward. And how do we do that? What is the best format for the greatest impact for these Tuesday morning conversations? And what might be the leverage point for this seismic level of change? So those are the questions that we want to put forward and ask you guys. And it is approaching the end of the year. We have the holidays. Thanksgiving is next week, Holy Toledo, and I'm hosting 13 people here in my apartment. And Tanuja is traveling, and then we have, you know, the big C ahead. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take your thoughts from today and any thoughts that you care to put in the Slack or to send to us individually. And we are going to, at the end of today, wish you all a happy holidays, and we'll look forward to seeing you again here on January 10th. So, and I want to point out, do you guys know what that orb is? Does anybody know? It is a frozen. Oh, yes, Catherine.
Well, it looks like a Christmas ornament to me. That's what I was thinking.
Yes, true enough. And that's why it's there, because it's a beautiful emblem of winter in the Northern Hemisphere. But it is a frozen soap bubble.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
No kidding. And for those of us who are taking the Capra course, we talk about soap bubbles all the time. And when I learned that that's what that is, go online and check it out. There are so many, and the incredible art that frozen soap bubbles create is unbelievable. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah. And with that, I open up the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you, Pam. Thank you with that message, both for the holidays. And I also want to point out kind of a big thing that Pam very gently put forward in her slides. It is that we have reached a sort of a inflection point in these sessions. We had been discussing theory, we'd been discussing fundamentals. We are now really coming to the collaborative aspect. So we really want to hear from you how to move forward, what format works. Is this format that we've been going through the right thing? Should we have outside speakers? Would all of you like to speak on a topic? In the same manner, 20, 25-minute presentation and the remaining discussion. But we give you until the end of the year to think about it. So that's your homework until the end of the year, right? When we're back at January 10, if you do not bring your homework with you, or you say the dog ate it, you are banned. You are banned from these sessions.
Well, no, you can still keep coming, but we do we do want to hear from you. And I put the 3 questions into the chat. What might be the leverage point for this seismic level of change? How do we move this important conversation forward and collect the best format for the greatest impact? And especially the folks that are here this morning, you guys have been so integral to this conversation. And Joel, I'm glad to see you here today. I really hope you'll continue to join us. You missed a great little slideshow. I'm sorry you got here late. It's well worth going and looking at. And all of that is in our YouTube, including the slideshows. Are the slide decks, are they there as well, Tanuja?
No, just the video.
But
And
we
of
might
course,
think about that, because I think that having the decks really might be a good idea
yeah, we could do
for
that.
review, because then you don't have to slog through an hour-long video. You could just go and look over the definitions and the glossary terms that we covered as well. So we will get those in there at some point. Tanuja is with us in New York only because her flight didn't leave yesterday, or else she'd be chiming in from Germany. But let's talk about what we want to do. Does anyone want to start? Eric, you're in the upper left corner of my screen. Your hand isn't up, but could I call on you?
Sure. No, I mean, the first thing that comes to me is always sort of a biomimicry type question, right? So when we look at structure and system and function, and then I want to ask, is there some example or examples in nature that we can learn from? So I just typed that into the chat, like, how would nature proliferate change? And so that's an open question, really, from my end of it. That's the most wise thing I can think of at the moment, because I have a headache.
Yes, but thank you. That was a very great, wise question. Yeah.
I'd like to chime in for a second and say, yes, the scale of the problem seems very large, but if we can bring our consciousness not to see the largeness of it, but rather see the quality of it, then I think we can actually achieve change, which is what nature does. Nature doesn't see, size and then say, let me just find a bigger hammer to deal with it. So nature has a fractal connected solution. So I think we can do the same.
Beautiful. Catherine, did you want to go? Yeah, and let's try to use our electronic hands if we can, but I totally understand. Catherine, and then Joel.
So one of the things that came to my mind as you were talking was maybe looking at some of the experiments that have been tried, and to use our systems thinking approach to sort of analyze whether it's actually following that. What do we see emerging out of the way that's set up, so that we have a tangible to work with as we seed our own understanding deeper. So that was the thought I had.
Yes, excellent idea. We were thinking of that yesterday after the GRC at 3 presentation, looking at the
So good.
Yeah. You want to speak to that a little bit, Catherine?
I was just very, very impressed with the depth of his thinking.
Who could you say who? Neil Spackman?
Spackman, yeah, that was the guy's name. Thank you. Yeah, just very impressed with his understand and his way of seeing what he does seated in a larger thing and his understanding of that. It was just, I was very impressed with the guy, very impressed with him. And he might actually be a fun person to explore with.
Yeah, if he has time. He's a pretty
Oh,
big.
he's amazing. Yeah.
But looking at that, and I actually, if you were there when I asked him the question, what regenerative thinking are you doing for after this is a major success? Because I think that's when stuff starts to break down. So, and also I would want to think through the negative externalities of bringing these huge things and just plopping them down in places that will affect so much. And you really need to have that in mind as well. So absolutely, but that's a great idea. So look at experiments and run them through the systems thinking model. All right. Yeah, Joel.
Yeah, so oh, by the way, just on the presentation yesterday, I think I totally agree with you, Pam, because that was my question was around place sourcing of the work, right? And that's sort of I guess I have a bias towards like a much heavier, deeper place sourcing than taking a platform and just adjusting it, applying it in many places and just adjusting it. So I personally, although obviously the work is impressive in its way, and I'm really interested in the work you did in Saudi as well. I think to my taste, it's not quite place sourced enough. But anyway, but that's related to this topic as well, because what I'd love to see is, I think coming up with ideas for leverage points is great, but I think where we as a group really move forward is testing them in reality. So I would love to see us identifying leverage points, then actually testing them, and then this group becomes a place where we discuss how to test them, track through the testing of them, and then learn together from the tests through a systems lens, through a regenerative lens, so that we can really surface the patterns that we're seeing in the tests that we run. And I think those tests can really happen at any different level. My intuition around it is to do it in a very place-based way. So I'm testing out these ideas in the place where I live, and I'd be very happy to share, progressively how that goes. So yeah, I would love this to be becomes really a group of practice of seeing a leverage point or hypothesizing a leverage point, testing a leverage point in practice, in reality, in the complex, hard world, jointly learning from it, and then obviously then inviting in others who are doing that really heavy duty practice based leverage point testing or work as well, because I think I'm loving the amount of sort of community that's springing up around regeneration, and I think the next stage in those communities is sort of moving from it being quite oriented around sort of regenerative celebrities or whatever, which is happening quite a lot, through to everybody doing the hardcore work and learning together around that.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, we have a complete mechanism ready to go that if something were to be found that had enough research potential, grants can be written and the mechanism is in place to run that research grant through my organization and create a project and have somebody run a project. That is what my work is. We have approximately 80 projects right now, including GRC and regeneration pollination and several other regen oriented. So it exists, and I'm always on the lookout for that exact thing, and to make space for that exact thing to happen. So in a perfect world, I would love this to become a work group. Tanuja wants a white paper out of it. There's a lot of things that could come to be. So yes, hold that thought and keep on thinking.
Yeah. And Joel, I want to reemphasize, sorry, this is sort of my thing, is that we want the practice, but keeping in mind that this field is new. The science is new, the theory is new, the practice is new. So we need to keep the theory going in parallel as well.
Yeah,
And so
totally
my
agree.
method, my
Right.
method to live regeneration is to say that I contribute to the theory and release it to the public. So I'm not holding it with IP.
That excellent. That is truly walking the talk. And yes, yeah, boy, it's so much in there, Tanuja. Yeah. Christiana.
I think that I have gone to heaven and I have gone to sleep and woke up to heaven, you guys. Allow me to say, because I just finished the one-pager for me entering the science incubator in one of the most highly regarded places in Greece, under the auspice of the National Space Agency. And they want innovation on the ground. And the director phoned me and he said, we're going to have to find something that takes measurements from the satellites and applies it to the Earth. And with the team, we have said maybe we can measure the carbon in the soil. Let's start from that, which is an easy way. But why I am saying this is because it looks like we are going to be under the auspice of certain universities with our effort. So we might be able to pilot this regenerative village. So many times I have said it, and it's time that we do something, not just saying it in the piece of paper, but in actuality, do it. So to me, I know I'm only one person in here, but I am working very diligently to be able to understand what's demanded of me so I can start making it happen here. I am very willing to understand what is it that it is demanded so we can make it happen here. I think that we have an excellent chance of, and if it's not my project chosen, at least I will get the research, or I will get the some part of the experiment. But I am engaging a whole hell of scientists in Greece to come and do white papers or any publications. So I just wanted to say that it felt good at my heart to at least hear that this group is going that direction. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Christiana. Colleen? Nope.
Wrong button. anyway, a couple of things that have come up in the conversation so far that I wanted to talk about. I really agree with the whole concept of having it place-based. I think that that's essential. I really appreciated what Joel had to say about that. I do think that Neil Spackman in practice is really maybe more place-based than he sounds in a conversation. I mean, he was in total immersion for 8 years in Saudi Arabia. He lived with the Bedou and knows their customs and all of that sort of thing. So I think he may be more place-based than you actually realize. But the other thing is research. Now, I come from a science background. I have a master's degree in nutritional biochemistry. And what I have realized over the years is that science, as we currently practice it, is pretty reductionist. And so I'm very concerned about the type of research that we do. I have been really concerned, you know, like for instance, in medicine, you know, the double-blind studies and all that sort of thing that are being done, those never worked well for nutritional biochemistry studies. And so what we have to, we kind of are going to have to put on our thinking caps and figure out what research looks like when
Absolutely.
we're measuring an unbounded system, you know, that's constantly evolving. And so I just think it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Because you can collect data on anything, but is it the right data? And are we considering the relationships between the data points? You know, that the warm data stuff, you know, that what's her name?
Nora Bateson.
Yeah, that, yeah. I mean, it's really important for us to consider building a whole new level of scientific exploration with all of this, because I think we're coming to some false conclusions on some parts of this thing simply because we don't have all the data. and we may not have some of the most important data. So it's and so you draw conclusions, you know, based on a limited data set that may not be the right one at all.
Oh my gosh, you know, that is, and we just totally proved that last week in America, where entirely wrong conclusions were based on a limited data set that did not reflect the entire populace. And so we very wrong early calls were made. But you are singing my song, because what cannot get lost in this is we are supporting a paradigm shift from mechanistic, reductionistic, Newtonian approach to a systemic way of thinking where everything is interconnected. We're part of a flowing network. And that's why we keep talking about the terminology every single week, because we are autopoietic, we are nonlinear networks that are ever evolving. And that is a tough thing to make change. So the one thing I want to add as we move forward is the criteria for whatever projects we work on, they have to take all of the interconnected negative externalities into consideration. We are not going to bracket this and ignore the problems it's causing outside of the realm of the study. And that's what is happening all the time. Bottom line is they bracket it, They only consider the findings within the study, and they ignore and discount any negative externalities. And that will not happen, not on my watch, because that's what we are all about, is everything is interconnected. And it,
Yeah.
thank you.
Colleen,
Thank you.
I can speak to that as well from the science bit, but that's also what I meant, that we don't have the science yet. We don't have the math yet. I mean, I want to give you just one example, and that's the normal curve, you know, the bell curve. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere in everything, not just in science. It is also how policy is designed. It is also how the COVID vaccine was designed.
Yeah.
Now, the fundamental assumption of the bell curve is that the things that you're counting, you know, the participants, they're independent. So they remove interdependence at the outset. So the bell curve itself is incorrect. Forget everything else. The bell curve itself does not apply to human systems and to living systems. So, but I did a quick simulation using something called agent-based models, where I said that if we applied a bell curve to human society, because that's how policy is designed, what happens? And you could see from the simulation that instead of eliminating one or two people randomly across a population, what it does is eliminates entire communities. And that's the way it works. Now, that's just for humans. Now, nature too is not randomly distributed. It is definitely built in clusters. You know, you've got certain types of trees here, other types of trees there, certain animals here and different, and so on. If you apply the bell curve as part of our climate change strategy, and we use a bell curve based solution, then we are going to eliminate entire communities of plants and animals, and we won't know why we did it.
Yeah.
So, okay, on that beautifully sunny note, Aarti, you have a beautifully sunny background.
Well, it is now finally raining in Kenya, which is an amazing thing, even in Amboseli. So you know, let's hope it keeps that way. No, so I think what I wanted to say was so the shift from the theory to the, I guess, the practice. I think you know, Tanuja, very well that I'm always going on about, but how do we apply this? How do we, you know, I think it'd be really useful to see within GRC how people may be using these concepts sometimes without even realizing, right? They may not have the labels, emergent properties or autopoiesis or feedback loops or, and it would be great to see just how widespread some of these theories are in practice within all the work that's going on in GRC. And then that might also be an opportunity to invite people to come and talk about their work, which is, I think, one of the things that Pam was, or one of you was sort of suggesting earlier. So.
Yeah. So I think what you're talking about is look at projects underway and see and reinterpret them from a systemic perspective. And that could lead to further findings or further progress. I agree with that completely. One of the things I'd very much like to do is to reinterpret articles that are written in popular media, New York Times, etc., on finance and economics, and reinterpret that from our language. And see where that gets us. You know, Colleen.
I had a really interesting experience yesterday. I had a gal call me from Los Angeles, and we had a Zoom call. This gal is from Canada, and she's living in the Netherlands. And she and her husband have created a company called Workwell. It's WERKWELL. And anyway, they've been in the construction industry for a very long time, and they're wanting to do regenerative, more sustainable type buildings and of villages. And honestly, as she talked, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're just a younger version of me. She was addressing all the same issues and everything. It was kind of scary, like, oh my goodness. But she's well connected with several high net worth individuals and people throughout Africa and Europe that are willing to try to assist her in building some of this type of thing that we're talking about. And I'm just, and in fact, I'll invite her to join GRC because I think she'd be great here. So anyway, I think as we move forward, and I really loved, Christiana, what you wrote there, that villages are the living labs. Honestly, they really are. And I think that the most difficult thing, when I visited Findhorn a number of years ago, which is an eco village in Scotland. And after we finished the tour, I cornered the guide and said, can we hold on to you for another 20 minutes or so while I ask questions? And so it was just he and I and my husband that were there. And I said, tell me what's hard. And he said, human relations. And I said, and obviously, this has lasted a lot longer than most eco villages because they're like in their 60th year or something right now. And I said, what do you attribute your success? And he said, we have a never-ending flow of people through our community. It's vibrant, and we're constantly doing workshops, and we're constantly, having people that come and spend a month, and some of them spend 6 months, and then they go out and they take what they've learned into their own communities. And I thought it was just really interesting that evidently that flow of humanity through these systems is absolutely essential to their success. The worst thing that you can do is to isolate it and make it more insular. And so as I've seen the successes and failures through our study of all these different kinds of communities and whatever, I've seen that same thing. So I think that this is one of the things that we need to consider as we're building our villages out, is how things flow in and out of them, and how things flow between and among them. Because I think that that's what's going to keep the thing healthy. And I don't know about you, but I remember when I was young, we used to travel across the United States a fair amount, and every area had its own little store brands and its own little this and that and the other. And you go from the south to the north, and it was whole different sets of stuff. And there wasn't the uniformity that we see now. I mean, you go to any American city and all the same stores are there now. And it hasn't always been so. And I think that we've lost a lot of the color of our social structures through this, kind of homogenization of what's gone on. And the more that we can kind of celebrate that place-based thing and bring back the local color, I would celebrate that.
Yeah, certainly. Catherine.
So what I've been chewing on is a lot of what we've been talking about are the characteristics of a system. And the work that I've been doing is about the processes, which is a little different take. And I've been seeing the process characteristics, if you will, as sort of criteria for measurement, because you can say, is this process healthy? Is this process working? Is this process even exist? And it becomes a way of measuring. It's a different kind of measure, but you can still compare things. So that gives you a way of evaluating. And to Colleen's point, diversity is one of those measures. And our tendency to standardize and to simplify is actually anti-life, because life is all about more diversity, more explosion, more creativity. So that is something you can pay attention to, whether the processes and the relationships, which is also another process, are designed to increase the diversity, to maintain the diversity, or to suppress the diversity. And could that become a touchstone to begin to think about the health and the viability of the systems you're involved in?
Yeah.
Yep. So, Catherine, what that leads to directly is the idea of patterns, that we are
Yes,
not really
absolutely.
things, we are patterns. And the patterns that form, reform, change, et cetera, is what determines where we're going. It's not the things that determine where we're going. So the science of patterns doesn't exist. What we are currently at the start of, the beginning of, is the science of networks, so network graphs.
Right.
But patterns are a different thing. And that's why, to get a bit sciencey here, that's why the topic or the subject of topology is now seeing a resurgence. So, but again, this is so new. Topology, do you remember there was this way back, I think in the 60s, 70s, there was these cool ideas. You take a donut and you twist it in such a way that it becomes an infinite loop.
Yeah.
The Mobius circle,
right.
Those sort of things are coming back because we continue to need mathematical measurements, as well as technical instrumentation that will be able to tell us that a system is going through major change. And that includes our medical system, our body. So we need to be able to visualize and measure pattern change, which we don't have at the moment.
That makes me think of J.G. Bennett's systematics, based on the quality properties of numerical systems, that is the basis of like Carol Sanford's and Regenesis's regenerative frameworks. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of, I work a lot with J.G. Bennett's systematics, because I think it's a really powerful basis of pattern recognition. And his idea for that was to essentially merge George Gurdjieff's insights into how life works and human society works with a more scientific paradigm, essentially, which is another way of asking how to take the scientific paradigm and make it alive in a way, which seems a related question to what we're talking about.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Joel. I've just gone to his systematics.org, by the way.
Yeah. Elementary Systematics is a very short book. It's a wonderful primer into that stuff.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, and for the first, Inquiring Systems has been around for 44 years, and for the first 38 of them, a Mobius circle was our logo. We absolutely believe in the interconnectedness of all systems and the importance of working in that way. And this has been such an incredibly wonderful conversation here this morning, and I can't wait to hear from you all and to continue this and to return. I thought about doing it January 3rd, and then I thought, well, that first week back, maybe no. So the 10th, please put it in your calendar. Please plan to join us. And I think we can get real. This, I hope we don't end up going off into 1,000 different splintered directions. I really want to stay with this conversation, with this thought experiment, turning it into an experiment, turning it into something that we can actually have to lay down and put our teeth into, so to speak. Talk about mixed metaphors. And I wish you all a holiday and a wonderful rest of the year. And Dan, to you, we will all be sending you good juju. Is it mañana? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. All right, guys.
And also, please don't hesitate to continue the conversations in Slack or to reach out to us by email if you have a suggestion, an idea, a question, whatever. So
Yeah,
it's not
and
like
if you
we're
put it in
disappearing, you know.
Slack, yeah,
Yeah.
put it in Slack so then we can all sort of continue the work of thinking this together, keeping it going, and I can hardly wait to begin on this. All right, guys, thank you so very
amazing
much.
Session today. I had an insight. Tanuja had said at one point, the insights people we gain is your added value. I still remember that when we started the conversations. Today, it's happening. I'm so excited, you guys. I'm writing to the National Space Center to tell them it's what you do with the data that it's important, not just collecting the data. Yes. Sorry, I'm excited.
Oh, thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Hey, I'm glad to see everybody smiling, because this was rather a deep discussion, right, Pam? But I love the energy of it. So
yes,
looking
to be
forward to
continued.
re-meeting in January. Yeah. Have a wonderful holiday, end of year.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dave, I don't know if you can hear us or not, but thank you so much for GRC and making all of this possible. Truly, dude, you have done yeoman work. And I'll bet you can't hear me.
Yeah. Send him a message, Pam. Send him a message.
Yeah, he's gone.
So, yeah. But
wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
See, you see, people are willing to talk about things like,
I know. I totally, and it's this group, they keep coming back.
Yeah. And it's not like we need to shy away from, heavy topics.
That is not my, I'm more than happy to do it. I'm always the heavy, and I'm always creating the awkward silence.
So, okay.
Wow, how exciting.
Yeah.
God, that was just fabulous. Yay, thank you. Thank you, universe. Really.
That's right. That's right. So, okay, I need to go in 1 hour. I need to leave, and I haven't
You got
cleaned
to
my
get on the
balcony yet.
road, Jack.
Yeah.
Do come
So-
back. So, you know, that's a song.
Yeah. Yeah. So, listen, India is 13 and a half hours from you, just so you know.
Oh, 13.5 hours ahead.
Yes. So,
So, you know,
but
on
we'll
WhatsApp.
discuss. I just wanted to I just wanted to let you know.
No, I'll make a note. And then, so you WhatsApp me and to coordinate the next get together, you know, and if you set up a Zoom, it should tell you, it'll tell you your time, but then it'll be in my time too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, yeah, love. Would you let me know you make it safe and sound?
Of course, I will do that. I will do that. I will never taking a discount airline again.
Absolutely never.
Although this
You
was one of
are,
the more popular ones, but
which one?
it's called Condor. It's based out of Germany, and it's sort of a what's it called? A cruise airline? Not cruise, something. Tour airlines. Well, generally tour packages, they charter it. So my friends have been taking this, so it's not a problem. But I think it's exactly what you suggested. They ran out of crew. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, safe travels.
thank you.
And let me know you're safe. And then I just want to thank you and tell you what an honor and privilege it is to work with you.
Oh, and the same, but it's you know what it is? It's sort of the being in the wave that's of value, you know?
And this
And
is the wave.
right. And the wave always means all kinds of emotions, doesn't it?
Mhm.
It's never
It
just the
does.
one emotion.
It
So-
does. Yeah. And, you know, I've spent so much of my adult life being the only one with this point of view. And finally, it is the collective is gathering.
Hmm.
It's been so hard to find. And, you know, finding Lauren was such a gift to me. It's like, yes, we could agree on all of this. Like I said, the Mobius circle was he knew this in 1976. So did I. You know, I had
Wonderful.
that professor at the JC.
Right, you
And,
mentioned.
and, you know, it's been such a long slog, but I really feel like we're finally getting the traction. I'm so glad Joel was there today.
Yes. So I did
Hallelujah.
tell you he'd be back. I did tell you. And
Yeah,
he made a
yeah.
tremendous contribution today.
As always, and Catherine, and you know, I think we're getting our core group.
Mm,
We may think of a couple others, but let's talk later. You go catch your
yes.
flight.
Yeah. Okay. Take care. Bye. Speak to you soon. Bye.